Yuki Onna is an ancient and mysterious female yokai that appears in snowstorms. This beautiful figure is said to be the spirit of winter, and she is both feared and respected in Japan. She has white skin, long black hair, and piercing blue eyes, and she is usually seen wearing a white kimono and carrying a fan. Legends say that Yuki Onna can use her icy breath to freeze her victims, and sometimes will offer to give them a wish in return for their freedom. Tales of her are whispered throughout the land, and anyone who wanders too far from safety may find themselves at the mercy of this powerful spirit of winter. The Yuki Onna usually attacks travelers who are lost in snowstorms, as well as people who are foolish enough to wander too far from safety. Yuki Onna is often described as a malicious creature that preys on travelers who are lost in snowstorms. She can be dangerous and unpredictable, and sometimes will offer to give her victims a wish in return for their freedom. However, she is also said to be a protector of the land and its people, and some legends suggest that she can be appeased with offerings of food and small gifts. Although Yuki Onna is a feared and respected figure in Japanese folklore, she has also been seen in various forms throughout the years. She has been featured in artwork, movies, and even video games, and is often portrayed as a beautiful yet dangerous figure who has the power to both harm and protect. A mere touch is enough to give a human a deep, unshakable chill. They feed on life force, sucking it from humans' mouths with an icy breath that freezes their victim solid. Yuki Onna spend their lives hunting humans in the snow. They stay near mountain roads and prey on the travelers coming and going, or break into homes and flash freeze the inhabitants during the night. While they are killers, Yuki Onna are not entirely cold-blooded. Legends say they can fall in love with their intended prey and let them go free. Some go so far as to marry humans and live happily together. As supernatural spirits never age, however, their husbands inevitably discover their true identities. This revelation usually ends these happy marriages. In Niigata Prefecture, an elderly man operated an inn on a mountain trail with his wife. One snowy night, the inn was visited by a young lady traveling alone. She warmed herself by the fire and ate with the innkeeper and his wife. She was sweet and charming and extremely beautiful, so it was even more of a surprise when, in the middle of the night during a fierce blizzard, she stood up and made to leave the inn. The innkeeper begged her not to go outside, and took her hand to hold her back. It was as cold as ice. Merely touching it sucked all the warmth from the innkeeper's body. As he tried to keep the girl in the house, her entire body turned into a fine icy mist, and shot up the chimney and out into the night. A man from Yamagata Prefecture claimed that he had been married to a Yuki Onna. His wife was beautiful, with piercing eyes and skin as white as a marble statue. While he loved to take long hot baths every night, his wife always refused to bathe. This puzzled him greatly. One particularly cold and snowy night, he insisted that his wife take a bath. Otherwise she would freeze to death in the cold, he said. She protested, but there was no reasoning with the man. Finally she acquiesced. When he went in to check on her a few minutes later, all he found in the tub were half-melted icicles. In the Aomori and Yamagata prefectures, there is a similar story about one called the Shigama Onna. In the Kaminoyama region of Yamagata, a Yuki Onna would come visit an old couple on a snowy night to warm herself by the fire. When late at night the Yuki Onna would again go out on a journey, the old man would attempt to take her hand to stop her, when he noticed that she was chillingly cold. Then, before his eyes, the girl turned into a whirl of snow that exited the house through the chimney. Also, it has some points of similarity with the Kokakucho, and on the night of a blizzard, as the Yuki Onna would be standing there hugging a child, Yukinko, it would ask people passing by to hug the child as well. When one hugs the child would become heavier and heavier until one would become covered with snow and freeze to death. It has also been told that if one refuses, one would be shoved down into a snowy valley. In Hirosaki and Aomori, it is said that there was a warrior who was asked by Yuki Onna to hug a child similarly, but the warrior held a short sword by the mouth and hugged the child while making the blade go close to the child's head, which allowed the warrior to avoid the aforementioned phenomenon. When the warrior handed the child back to the Yuki Onna, the ghoul gave many treasures as thanks for hugging the child. It is also said that those who are able to withstand the ever-increasing weight of the Yukinko and last all the way through would acquire great physical strength. In the Ina region of Nagano Prefecture, Yuki Onna is called Yukinba, and it is believed that they would appear on a snowy night in the form of a Yamaba. Similarly, in Yoshida, a Hime prefecture, on a night when snow is accumulating on the ground, a yukinba is said to appear, and people would make sure not to let their children outside. Also, in the Tono region of Iwate Prefecture, and on Little New Year, Koshigatsu, or the 15th day of the first month, a Yuki Onna would take many children along to a field to play, so children were warned against going outside. It can be thus seen that Yuki Onna are often considered the same as the Yamaba, sharing the similarity that they are fecund and take many children along with them. In the Edo region of Wakayama Prefecture, it is said that there would be a one-legged child jump walking on a night when snow accumulates, and the next morning there would be round footprints remaining, and this would be called the Yukinbo, snow child. But the one-legged snow child is thought to be the servant of a mountain god. In the village of Oshika, Tohaku District, Tottora Prefecture, now Misasa, it has been said that a Yuki Onna would come during light snow and say, "Kori goes you goes. Give me ice, give me hot water." Goes is a dialect word for "give me," while waving around a white wand, and she would bulge when splashed with water and disappear when splashed with hot water. In the area around the Kamana River in Yoshino District, Nara Prefecture, the Oshiroi Ba-san, or Oshiroi Baba, is also thought to be a type of Yuki Onna, and they are said to drag along mirrors, making clinking sounds while doing so. These characteristics, that of waving around a white wand and possessing a mirror, are thought to be the characteristics of a Miko who serves a mountain god that rules over birth and harvest. In Aomori, it is said that a Yuki Onna would come down to the village on the third day of Shogatsu and return to the mountains on the first day of Rabbit, and it is thought that on years when the day of Rabbit is late in arriving, how well the harvest is will be different from before. In the Iwate and the Miyagi prefectures, a Yuki Onna is thought to steal people's vitality, and in Niigata Prefecture, they are said to take the livers out of children and freeze people to death. In Nishimonai, Akita Prefecture, looking at a Yuki Onna's face and exchanging words with her would result in being eaten. In Ibaraki Prefecture and in Iwaki Province, Fukushima Prefecture, it is said that if one does not answer when called by a Yuki Onna, one would be shoved down into the bottom of a valley. In the Fukui Prefecture, they are called Koshi Masumi, or passing girl, and it is said that those who turn their backs to a Koshi Masumi when being called by one would get pushed into a valley. In Ibagawa, Ibi District, Gifu Prefecture, an invisible monster called the Yukinobo is said to change its appearance and appear as a Yuki Onna. It is said that this monster would appear at mountain huts and ask for water, but if one grants the request, one would be killed, so one should give hot tea instead. It is said that in order to make the Yukinbo go away, one should chant, Sake Kuromoji ni Ato Boshi, Shimetsuke Haitara, Ikenaru Mano Mo, Kano Mai, meaning, a Kuruho in front and a Boshi behind. By wearing these tight, nothing is possible. The Hirosaki, Aomori legend about a Yuki Onna returning to the human world on New Year's Day, Shogatsu, and the legend in Tono, Iwate Prefecture about Yuki Onna taking away many children to play on Little New Year, Koshigatsu. Looking at the days on which they visit, both legends offer insight on how the Yuki Onna has some characteristics of a Toshigami. The story of how when one person treated a Yuki Onna with kindness on a blizzard night, the Yuki Onna turned into gold the next morning. Illustrating how even in old tales such as the Otoshi no Kayaku, the Yuki Onna has some relation to the characteristics of a Toshigami. Yuki Onna often appear while taking along children. This is in common with another yokai that takes along children, the Ubyum. In the Mogami District, Yamagata Prefecture, Ubyum are said to be Yuki Onna. They often appear in stories about interspecies marriage, and stories similar to Lafcadio Hearn's Yuki Onna where a mountain hunter gets together with a woman who stays the night as a guest and eventually births a child. One day the man carelessly talks about the taboo of getting together with a Yuki Onna, resulting in the woman revealing herself to be a Yuki Onna, but not killing the man due to having a child between them and warning, if anything happens to the child, you won't get away with it, before going away. These stories can be found in Niigata Prefecture, Toyama Prefecture, and the Nagano Prefecture, which came about as a result of many stories about mountain people where those who break the mountain taboos would be killed by mountain spirits. There is also the hypothesis that the Yuki Onna legend was born from a mixture of paranormal stories of mountain people and the paranormal Yuki Onna stories. Old tales about Yuki Onna are mostly stories of sorrow, and it is said that these tales started from when people who have lived gloomy lives, such as childless old couples or single men in mountain villages, would hear the sound of a blizzard knocking on their shutter door and fantasize that the thing that they long for has come. It is said that after that, they would live in happiness with what they longed for in a fantasy as fleeting as snow. There is also a feeling of fear, and like as in the Tono Monogatari, the sound of a blizzard knocking on an outer shoji is called the shoji sasori, and there is a custom of making children who stayed up late go to sleep quickly when a Yuki Onna rubs a shoji. From real sayings such as the shoji sasori, it is said that things that one longs for sit back to back with fear. Also, winter is the season when gods would come to visit, and if one does not pay respects, terrible things will happen. So even if it is said to be things that one longs for, one cannot put too much trust in that. In any case, it can be said to be related to the coming and going of seasons. Nobuyoshi Furuhashi, scholar of Japanese literature, stated that the novel Kei's no Matasaburo is also probably somehow related. There are various legends about the Yuki Onna's true identity, such as a snow spirit or the spirit of a woman who fell over in the snow. In a Setsuwa of the Oguni region of Yamagata Prefecture, a Yuki Joro was originally a princess of the moon world, and in order to leave a boring lifestyle came down to earth together with snow but was unable to go back to the moon and so appears on snowy moonlit nights. Yamaoka Genrin, an intellectual from the Edo period, said that Yuki Onna is born from snow. It was supposed that if there were a lot of something, a living thing would come forth from it, giving birth to fish if the water is deep enough and birds if the forest is thick enough. Since both snow and women are yin, so in places like Ichigo it is said that Yuki Onna might be born from within deep snow. Among Japan's traditional culture, Yuki Onna can be seen in koaka such as the Fushimi Takiwa, which can also be checked in modern times. In Chikamatsu Manzeman's Yuki Onna Gomai Hagoida, the story is about how a woman who was deceived and murdered became a Yuki Onna and took revenge as a vengeful ghost. The bewitching and frightening aspects of a Yuki Onna are often used in such depictions. Some legends say the Yuki Onna, being associated with winter and snowstorms, is the spirit of someone who perished in the snow. She is at the same time beautiful and serene, yet ruthless in killing unsuspecting mortals. Until the 18th century, she was almost uniformly portrayed as evil. Today, however, stories often color her as mere human, emphasizing her ghost-like nature and ephemeral beauty. In many stories, Yuki Onna appears to travelers trapped in snowstorms and uses her icy breath to leave them as frost-coated corpses. Other legends say she leads them astray so they simply die of exposure. Other times, she manifests holding a child. When a well-intentioned soul takes the child from her, they are frozen in place. Parents searching for lost children are particularly susceptible to this tactic. Other legends make Yuki Onna much more aggressive. In these stories, she often invades homes, blowing in the door with a gust of wind to kill residents in their sleep. Some legends require her to be invited inside first. What Yuki Onna is after varies from tale to tale. Sometimes she is simply satisfied to see a victim die. Other times, she is more vampiric, draining her victim's blood or life force. She occasionally takes on a succubus-like manner, preying on weak-willed men to drain or freeze them through sex or a kiss. Like the snow and winter weather she represents, Yuki Onna has a softer side. She sometimes lets would-be victims go for various reasons. In one popular Yuki Onna legend, for example, she sets a young boy free because of his beauty and age. She makes him promise never to speak of her, but later in life, he tells the story to his wife who reveals herself to be the Snow Woman. She reviles him for breaking his promise but spares him again, this time out of concern for their children, but if he dares mistreat their children, she will return with no mercy. Luckily for him, he is a loving father. In some versions, she chose not to kill him because he told her, which she did not treat as a broken promise. Technically, Yuki Onna herself is not a human and thus did not count. In a similar legend, Yuki Onna melts away once her husband discovers her true nature. However, she departs to the afterlife afterward the same way. Lafcadio Hearn's version of the story. A long time ago, there lived two woodcutters, Minokichi and Mosaku. Minokichi was young and Mosaku was very old. One winter day, they could not come back home because of a snowstorm. They found a hut in the mountain and decided to sleep there. On this particular evening, Minokichi woke up and found a beautiful lady with white clothes. She breathed on old Mosaku and he was frozen to death. She then approached Minokichi to breathe on him, but stared at him for a while and said, "I thought I was going to kill you. The same as that old man. But I will not because you are young and beautiful. You must not tell anyone about this incident. If you tell anyone about me, I will kill you." Several years later, Minokichi met a beautiful young lady, named Yuki, and married her. She was a good wife. Minokichi and Yuki had several children and lived happily for many years. Mysteriously, she did not age. One night, after the children were asleep, Minokichi said to Yuki, "Whenever I see you, I am reminded of a mysterious incident that happened to me. When I was young, I met a beautiful young lady like you. I do not know if it was a dream or if she was a Yuki Onna." After finishing his story, Yuki suddenly stood up and said, "That woman you met was me. I told you that I would kill you if you ever told anyone about that incident. However, I can't kill you because of our children. Take care of our children." Then she melted and disappeared. No one saw her again. There are several variations of Yuki Onna throughout Japan, through which one can fill a whole book only about this yokai. Here are a few notable ones. Water beggars. Tia said that Yuki Onna travels on wind and appears on the days with a light snowfall. She walks swinging a white gohei wand and shouts whoever she meets saying, "Please give me water, hot or cold." If anyone gives cold water, she swells in size, but if anyone gives hot water she melts and disappears. The Moon Princess. It is said that Yuki Onna is the princess of lunar world, living on the moon. Her life was filled with luxury, but it was extremely boring for her. She was fascinated to see the planet Earth below. So, she snuck out one night and fell down to Earth, traveling on snow. However, coming to Earth was easier for her than going back. So, she got stuck on Earth. She used to appear on full moon snowy night, pining for her old home. The Snow Vampire. It is said that Yuki Onna is a dreadful snow vampire, haunting the snowy forests, looking to feed. She lives by sucking the vital energy from the human body, which is mentioned as seiki. She is said to extract the seiki first by freezing victims to death and then sucking the seiki through the dead victim's mouth. It is said that Yuki Onna likes the seiki of children, so the mothers are warned over there not to let their children play on snowy nights near a forest. The Talking Snow Women. The Yuki Onna engages her victims in conversation in order to attack. When she meets someone on a dark and snowy night, she calls out to them. If the person answers her greeting, she attacks. But in Fukushima and Ibaraki, it is said that Yuki Onna attacks those who ignore her, whom she grabs and throws into a nearby ravine. In conclusion, Yuki Onna is an intriguing and mysterious figure from Japanese folklore. She is a powerful spirit that both terrifies and protects, and her presence is still felt in modern pop culture. Whether she is feared or respected, Yuki Onna will always be an iconic figure in Japanese mythology.